All right, let's jump right into this explainer and unpack the fascinating material science behind high-end exterior cladding, and we're going to use Kaycan as our ultimate case study today. Now, we're not just chatting about trending colors or aesthetic styles here. We are answering a very specific foundational question. Why do the pros consistently choose thicker vinyl? Whether you're a homeowner gearing up for a major renovation or just, someone who geeks out on how things are engineered to last, understanding the actual science behind what goes on the outside of a house, it completely changes how you look at every single building you drive past.
But first, I want to hook you with a bit of a paradox. Why does an aluminum company make the best vinyl? I mean, on the surface, that sounds completely backwards, right? Metal and plastic are entirely different mediums. But as we dig into the source material today, you're going to see exactly why this specific metal background is literally the secret sauce to their success in the vinyl siding market.
Section 1. An aluminum company's vinyl, from metal to plastic. So, to really understand modern vinyl, we have to look back at Kaycan's history. They were founded in Pointe Claire, Quebec, way back in 1974, and their original business was strictly aluminum siding and trims. But get this, they didn't start manufacturing vinyl until 1987. That means they spent 13 years learning exactly how metal behaves on a wall before they ever even touched a piece of plastic. You can also see their deliberate expansions later on, adding rainwear in 2004, jumping into engineered wood in 2008, and eventually being acquired by Saint-Gobain in 2022.
That 13-year metal era, it's absolutely everything. It gave them the instincts of a metal company that, learned plastic. Because they started with aluminum, their engineers intimately understood how cladding actually needs to stiffen, how it hangs perfectly straight, and how a nail hem physically takes a heavy load. That metal heritage fundamentally rewired their design philosophy. It resulted in volume vinyl that stiffens and hangs just like aluminum, rather than just kind of conforming and waving like a cheap piece of plastic.
Section 2. The gauge difference. Doing the math on thickness.
Okay, let's talk numbers. Standard thin volume vinyl usually sits around 0.040 to 0.044 inches thick. And hey, it gets the job done, sure, but Kaycan starts heavy right where most brands start thin. Their Prova line runs 0.048 inches, and the Richmond line pushes it even further.
0.050 inches. That right there is the mic drop number you get with premium lines like Richmond and their board and batten vertical panels. It's the absolute heaviest vinyl gauge they built. To put that into perspective, the Richmond line boasts a full 3/4-inch profile depth. That is a massive, tactile upgrade from the industry norm. When a professional actually holds a piece of 0.050-inch siding, it just feels different. It feels rigid, substantial, and truly ready to protect a house.
But it's not just about it feeling heavier in the hand. That extra gauge thickness allows for some really critical structural upgrades, like a double nail hem. Because the plastic is significantly thicker to begin with, they can engineer a doubled-up, reinforced fastening edge instead of just a standard single fold. This double hem is specifically designed to handle heavier panel weight and extreme wind loads. You literally cannot do that effectively with paper-thin material. It just wouldn't hold.
Now, there is a hidden logistical reality to using thick vinyl that pros know all too well. A standard premium line like Timberlake covers about 200 square feet per box. But those heavy 0.50-inch lines like Richmond or board and batten, they only cover 100 square feet per carton. Why? Simply because the material is so incredibly thick and heavy. Think about what that means for a 2,000 square foot wall. A contractor has to order, manage, and physically lift 20 boxes of Richmond instead of 10 boxes of Timberlake. It requires twice the freight, a much larger storage footprint on site, and twice the trips for the crew walking back and forth to the pile. Pros know this isn't some minor rounding error. It's a real scheduling and labor commitment that they willingly take on because the end result is just that much better.
Section 3. Flatter walls, deeper shadows. The aesthetic payoff.
So here is one of the most important visual reasons pros choose thicker vinyl. Heavy gauges read completely flat in raking afternoon light, instead of showing every single stud underneath. We've all seen it, right? Thin vinyl has this nasty tendency to conform, wave, and basically telescope all the hidden imperfections of a home's wooden framing. If a stud is even slightly bowed underneath, thin vinyl is going to show it to the whole neighborhood. But 0.050-inch vinyl, it acts like a literal suit of armor. It stays perfectly flat and hides those imperfections, even when the sun hits the elevation at a really harsh, revealing angle.
Thick profiles also allow for much deeper exposures. Now, exposure is just the visible height of the panel once it's locked into place. So a narrow 3.3-inch lap reads as fine traditional clapboard, which is perfect if you're cladding a delicate century home. But because the Richmond line uses such a thick gauge, it can actually support a massive double 6-inch bevel profile. That deep bevel throws roughly twice the shadow of standard clapboard, giving you this incredibly dramatic, bold, modern look. Thin plastic would just sag under that wide of an exposure, but the heavy gauge, it holds its rigid shape flawlessly.
This thickness also solves a huge modern design problem. Everyone, and I mean everyone, wants dark colors right now. Deep charcoals and blacks are highly requested, but there is a serious physical catch. Dark colors absorb significantly more intense heat from the sun. If you put standard thin vinyl in a black finish on a south-facing wall, the heat absorption makes it highly prone to warping and buckling. It's a nightmare. Heavy gauges, however, have the actual physical mass to handle that heat. Premium heavy lines like Richmond and Verona are engineered specifically for this, which is exactly why they include those robust 25-year fade resistance warranties. They're built to take the thermal beating.
Section 4. Surviving Harms of Winter, the ultimate climate test. If you're building in a place like Ontario, the environment is just absolutely brutal on building materials. Siding out there must survive a massive 50-degree temperature drop. We are talking about a wall going up in the sweltering heat of a mid-July installation, and then having to somehow survive a freezing deep winter January. Across these extreme seasonal shifts, the vinyl material expands and contracts violently. It is constantly in motion.
Because of that violent expansion and contraction, here is the absolute installation secret for extreme weather. Step 1. You have to nail strictly in the center of the slot. Step 2. You must leave the fastener head about 1/32 of an inch off the hem. And step 3, and this is the big one, let the course physically float on the wall. Panels must be hung, not clamped tight. If you clamp them down hard against the house, they literally cannot move, and when that temperature drops 50 degrees, they will tear themselves apart or buckle violently outward.
And here is the ultimate takeaway for why thickness matters so much in the field. Heavier gauges buy you margin for error. On a busy, fast-moving job site, if a crew member accidentally drives a nail just a tiny fraction too tight, a thick 0.050-inch panel has the structural integrity to resist buckling and hold its shape. A thin standard panel, it's going to warp almost immediately under that exact same pressure. The pros choose thick vinyl because it acts as an insurance policy against tiny human errors and those massive climate swings.
So, with all this material science in mind, from that awesome aluminum heritage to the double nail hems and the brutal climate tests, I want you to ask yourself this critical question before your next renovation project. Is your home's exterior built to clamp, or is it engineered to float? When you really understand the science of thicker material, the choice the pros make isn't just about spending more money up front. It's about ensuring the wall actually survives the harsh reality of the elements. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I hope it gave you a totally new perspective on what protects our homes. Catch you on the next one.